Hey, and welcome back to episode 67 of the Cellarcast. I have had a pretty quiet week, pretty much just recovering from I put up the Die Hard complete collection, which was something I'd been meaning to do for a long time, and I figured, if I was short on time, I might as well get that done. So I'm glad with how it turned out. I made a couple little tweaks to it that I think pretty minor. Probably won't notice them, even if you watch the original one, but important to me. And besides that, I've pretty much just been laying down and sleeping a lot, which feels really nice. Feels really nice. I feel like kind of relaxed for the first time in a little bit. I had a run of bad luck, unfortunate timing. What with was it? August being like such a losing like a week, and then having to cram like 2 videos kind of into like 3 weeks, and then the very next month, the first video I decide to do ends up being like the longest thing. It's funny because when I looked up when I was considering doing I looked up a howlongtobeat.com, which, if you don't know, is a website that people can submit their times on various games under different categories, like whether they do it, just like the main story plus side quests, 100% completion, all that, and they can submit their times. Then it averages all of them out to give you a rough idea of how long it would take to beat a given game, as the name would imply. And I looked up and it said, like, if you're just doing the main story stuff, take about 6-7 hours. And I thought, oh, that'll be fine. And then it ended up taking 15 hours, and then I had to go take notes on all that, and then it was just and then write the script based on that, and yeah, oh my god. So it was a lot more. I bit off a lot more than maybe I could chew with that one. But hey, it came out. And I'm still talking about it like I'm I'm traumatized by that video. I kind of am a little bit. Stalling just a little bit because we didn't have any comments from last time. Although I wonder, the reactions to my bus story. I think Losey said something about like, oh, I thought they were exaggerating that. There's like an episode of The Simpsons. I think I tried to find it. I think I found the one you was talking about. Where Lisa tries to take the bus to the museum, and she like takes like the wrong bus, and it goes like way outside of town. They pass like Crack Town, and it's funny because I was watching that clip, and there's like a guy on the bus who's clearly like a convict. Like he's in like the orange like jumpsuit. Like he's straight out of prison. And that literally happened to me one time. I was on the bus, and then we make a stop, and this lady gets on, and she starts explaining to the bus driver that she had just gotten out of jail or something. She'd just gotten out of jail, and all of her things were at like such and such police station or something like that. And she needed, she asked for a courtesy ride. That's what it was called, a courtesy ride, to take her to the police station, and he obliged because she didn't have any money. So I didn't even know that was a thing. That you could just like ask for a courtesy ride with like just like, can you do me a solid kind of thing. Is that like a policy? I have no idea. Kat told me there was one time when she was a little baby, and I think she got lost or something, and she didn't know how to get home, so she asked a bus driver for a courtesy ride. So I guess that is a thing. If you're like out of jail or a little baby, then they will. You can just ask the bus driver for a solid. But that literally happened to me one time. Yeah, I don't know what the taking the bus is like in other countries, but it's it's like, to give you just like, without doxing myself, just to give you like some context. Like, I don't even live near like a major metropolitan area. Like, if I was living in like San Francisco or LA, like, okay, fine, or some big city, something like that, I'd be like, yeah, you'd expect it. I don't even live. I live in like a mid tier, like a mid level kind of like area generally, like a chain of just, yeah, there's some good parts, there's some kind of seedy, you don't want to go there at night kind of parts. Not I'm not living in like Gotham City, and yeah, still, I this kind of thing happens all the time. Well, with that out of the way, I wanted to. So, I mentioned last time, of course, had a big section on Guilty Gear Xrd and how it's getting rollback. Woohoo! So I decided, hey, I want to, put some time into it, because I put a little bit of time into Xrd about a year ago. This was like pre-Strive even, just because I had a computer that could run it finally, and eventually I just gave it up for more plus R. I'm like, hey, if it's getting rollback, let me check it out, because it is fun. It is a fun game, and it's got so many neat little things to it. I adore the presentation in Xrd, and it's honestly one of the biggest criticisms I could levy at Strive is that the presentation in Strive is such a letdown. It's such a step down compared to Xrd. In everything pretty much besides like the fidelity of the animations. Of course, the animations and like the models are like gorgeous in Strive, right? But everything else, like characters take battle damage in Xrd. There's like the intros for characters are like these like full cinematics basically. They're like these actual scenes with like crazy direction rather than just the character walking up to the fight. The stages are a lot more dense, and I get why, like, in Strive, like, they need to spread details out across like 3 or more different scenes, so I get it, right? But yeah, just having like all this, some really gorgeous looking stages in Xrd, interesting, weird, crazy looking stuff. And there is that, like, when I think about Strive stages, I'm like, yeah, I mean, Faust's stage is really cool. Zato's stage is really cool. Potemkin's stage is pretty neat too. But like, yeah, I don't know. They're like a compact. There's like a density in Xrd to the stages that is just really nice to look at. But beyond that, I figured, hey, I might as well just practice, like, just see what Slayer's got going on, because I remember him feeling a little different. I remember, like, oh, some moves are more important than other ones in Xrd compared to plus R. So I went in and I got a quick feel. I kind of refreshed my memory on what he got and what he lost in Xrd. RIP cross-up dandy steps. And then checked out the Dust Loop combos, checked out his combo trials, and I was a little taken aback, I have to say. I don't know how else to say this. Slayer feels so much easier in Xrd. He feels so much easier to play, or just do like basic combos, right? Like basic stuff. So I'll give you an example, and this kind of shocked me, right? So I knew that like close slash, far slash was a much more important thing for Slayer and Xrd, right? Like in plus R you do have that. Like you can so basically one of Slayer's, if you weren't aware, I guess I should start with the concept of close slash, far slash. So Guilty Gear has like the slash button. It's one of your main attacks, and it changes depending on whether or not you're close to the enemy or like outside of a certain range. So close slash is usually some kind of like a combo starter or something like that. Far slash tends to be like a poke, usually, that you might be able to get like a really small conversion off of. So Slayer has a unique property where for pretty much every other character in the game, you can like just mash. If you're in close slash range, you can do close slash, and then the very next button you hit, it'll like far slash will automatically come out. Like it'll push you. I'm not sure if it's like programmed into it that it'll always work like that, but or if it's like the pushback from the close slash will always put you into far slash range. I'm not sure exactly like how it works on the programming side, but pretty much like close slash, far slash into like a special or something, that's like pretty normal. Slayer is the only character who can do far slash into close slash, and again, I'm not quite sure how it works. I think it's because like his far slash, he does this funny kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. His animations are very like flashy and showy and kind of dance like. Like he's obviously showing off. He does this funny kind of like Michael Jackson lean where he like he like backhands you while doing like a lean forward. It's kind of funny. And then like at the end of the animation, he like leans, I don't know, like he slides back into place. It's kind of weird. Like his feet move backwards for the lean. Then they slide back into place. And I think that maybe puts you back into close slash range. I've got no idea. Anyway, he's the only character who can do that. And in Plus R, I literally looked up the math on this. So in Plus R, it's a pretty tight combo. So I looked this up. It's about a 2-frame. Am I on the right one? Yeah, about a 1 to 2 frame link. Far slash is does 16 frames of hit stun, and it has 8 frames of recovery, and then so half of that hit stun you're like recovering from the move before you can input your next move. Close slash has 7 frames of startup, which means that you've got at the very closest spacing you have like 2 frames to get that close slash out, because you've only got 8 frames to work with. In Xrd, so it's like not super easy to do. It does a lot of damage, but it's not super easy to do. It's pretty difficult actually. And mind you, this is a game with like no input buffer. In Xrd, if I pull up the math here, far slash is attack level 2, which means it does yada yada yada. 14 frames of hit stun, and then it only has 6 frames of recovery, which means that you've got 8 frames, again 8 frames to work with, or 8 frames where you're just recovering, and then close slash, or sorry, 8 frames where you're free. Close slash has 5 frames of startup, so it's like a 3-frame link, which is much easier. It's actually way easier. Plus, the game has like a 3-frame buffer, so it's actually like a 6-frame link. It's super fucking easy. It's super easy to do. And so like I jumped, because I'd seen some Slayers in Xrd. I'd seen them do this like close slash, I just call it like a slash loop. See them do these slash loops, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's like much more common. I had no idea it was this easy. Like, you can go in and kind of mash it out, to be honest. Not difficult at all. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that all the characters' combos are easy now, right? You know, they can make some parts easy, some things easier and some things harder, right? So I kept looking at just like basic Slayer stuff, which in excuse me, in Plus R takes kind of like a real sense of timing to do. And I was excuse me. I was just doing like basic stuff in Xrd, and I was like, this just happens. Like, he just gets to do it. He just gets to. The only thing that like I can think of that he lost is he can't do like 5K, 2K, 2D anymore. So you can't get a knockdown off of just a 5K anymore. Which, like, oh, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. I'm pretty sure maybe on counter hit you can. But yeah, like, I was really I was like, I couldn't believe it. The hardest thing, the only thing I could feel that they made harder of like basic Slayer things was 6H pile bunker. So 6H is funny little like, woo, I don't even know how to, it's a little weird little ballet pirouette overhead kick, but it's not actually an overhead thing. Into pile bunker. In plus R, that's like free. You could do that so easy. There's like a weird timing to it in Xrd, which I was kind of took some getting used to. There's like a weird adjustment period, and even then, it's not that hard. Like I was looking it up. I'm looking up the Dust Loop page, and they're like, "Yeah, 6H pile bunker is a 1-frame link," and I'm like, "There's no way. There's no way it's a 1-frame link. That's impossible. What the? There's no way." Yeah, it's like, it's more difficult and it's a little more spacing dependent, but it's not that hard. It's a little harder compared to plus R where it's free, but yeah, so very shocked by that. I guess pleasantly surprised, like maybe I can just do basic Slayer things now without having to like warm up. But so I jumped into the combo trial because I'm like, oh, maybe this will be like maybe this will just be like I could see like, oh, maybe these are some more challenging things with this character. And yeah, there totally are things that like really made my hands hurt for like an hour. And it got me thinking about combo trials in general. It got me thinking about the role and purpose, because they're very interesting. They're very weird in fighting games, right? Like, okay, so every developer kind of takes a different approach to combo trials, right? In Xrd, for instance, you really get the sense that by at least Rev 2, they wanted the combo trials to reflect actual useful things that you could do with your character. Because not all of them do that. People have this kind of preconception that like, oh, these are the combos that you do in your trials. These are the combos that you do in a real match. No, oftentimes not at all, actually. A lot of times, but it's like weird to tell, right? It's hard to tell, because creating combo trials puts people in a difficult situation. And it's funny because, or puts developers in a difficult situation. And it's funny because like literally yesterday, as I was thinking about this, the YouTuber Gecko Squirrel put out a video about this. So good timing, I guess. It puts developers in an odd situation because you're like, it's kind of one of those things that's sort of just expected of you, kind of like of your game, like that you're going to have some kind of combo trials, just like a thing in the genre now. And so as a developer, you're like, okay, do we make combos that are useful? And obviously you think that would be like, oh yeah, of course you'd make combos that are useful. But in reality, the combos that are useful on like day one very quickly get obliterated by stuff that people find out on their own. Like maybe they'll survive for a few weeks, but someone's gonna find something way better that is usually easier, actually. Like I remember practicing like even like this wasn't even something that Arxis put out, but when Happy Chaos dropped in Strive, I saw like those combos where you would like juggle people with like 6K and stuff. And I was like, God, that's hard. Because the 6K, the hitbox is so low, you gotta like really time it. And then I realized, wait, 5K 6S shot is way easier, and it does like all pretty much the same amount of damage. And you get like wall splat, you get and you get like super, you get everything. You get all the good chaos stuff, but just with a way easier combo that does slightly less damage. It's probably even a way to make it deal more damage, without making it too much more difficult. So like, as a developer, you're put in this weird spot where you're like, okay, do we want to put in content that's supposed to be, because at that point it almost becomes misleading. Like, a new player is going to pick this up and they're going to do the combo trials and they're going to think that these are the actual good combos that you use in the game, like in real matches, and then they're actually not very good, and it kind of puts them at a disadvantage if they're playing someone, you know, with the same character. So other developers will then opt to basically make combo trials like interpretive. I don't know if there's a better word for it. To make them interpretive. As in, hey, don't like take these on face value. These are just kind of guides. These are just kind of suggestions, and hey, you know, this kind of thing is possible. Like, it's just some things to show off things that are possible with the character. It doesn't do a lot of damage. Like, how many times have I done... Oh, Street Fighter V combo trials are the worst. And they're the worst because they're inconsistent. So, like, for instance, you'll do, like, God, this combo's a fucking pain in the ass. And it does, like, no damage. It does, like, 0 damage compared to, like, there's so many... Most combos in Street Fighter V boil down to medium, special. And if you're feeling really spicy and you have the bar, medium, EX. And then maybe into like a normal and then another special. Ooh. Or maybe if you're like really frisky, medium, special, no, like fucking normal, V-trigger, medium, something, super. Ooh. That's what most combos kind of boil down to. And they tend to be really good. Like, I remember looking at, like, all these pointless target combos that Nash had. Where it, like, just, like, crouching medium punch, standing medium punch, heavy kick sonic scythe. Or just heavy sonic scythe, not heavy kick into sonic scythe, to be clear. Heavy sonic scythe was, like... a great it was like, it did good damage, it gave you a knockdown, it's pretty easy, like it's not difficult, and it's good. And then he had all these target combos, which I know aren't the same as combo trials, they're just like little dial combos that the character has. But I'm looking at them and I'm like going through each of them, I'm looking at the damage, I'm looking at the stun, I'm looking at like how much bar it builds, and how much does this give you a knockdown? And I'm looking at it like literally none of these are better than just low strong, stand strong, heavy sonic scythe. None of them are better than that. None of them are more useful. Why are these even here? And a lot of the combo trials kind of end up being like that, where it's like, yeah, this is possible with the character, but like, don't take this as an actual primer on how you should play them, because it tends to be much simpler than that. And then I noticed they don't do that for all of them. So, you know, I went through this. I like doing combo trials because I'm a freak. I think they're, you know, it's fun. It's fun to just mash out some combos and like learn something and see, oh, this is a cool thing the character can do. And sometimes a character's combo trials are even fun. Sometimes they can even be fun. And there was a brief period where I was kind of in a character crisis after the definitive update for SF5 came out, and they completely left Nash to die in a ditch, and they gave the most lip service buff to his actual weaknesses. And I was like, maybe I should just try playing a different character. And I kind of jumped around. I tried playing Seth, right? And funny enough, I actually ended up landing on Akira of all characters. I never would have thought that Akira would like be a play style that I enjoyed, but I find her really fun. So I tried out Seth, and I looked at his combo trials, and I was shocked at how legitimately useful his combo trials were. Like, they were real. I remember just doing it. I was like, oh, these are like real conversions. These are like realistic starters. This is like a decent. Yeah, this is like a decent combo. Oh, wow, okay. And you know how I could tell? Because they weren't that hard. Most of them. Some of them were a little tricky, but most of them weren't that hard. And they did decent damage. And I was like, oh, you could actually use this. What a novel idea. And then you get to, oh god, who had like, oh, I remember doing Sagat's combo trials. And he has this one where, okay, so like, the idea, it was a mid-screen combo where you kind of like juggle the opponent to the corner. And then you end it. No, you don't juggle them to the corner. The fact that it was mid-screen was very important, and I'll explain why. You'll know in a second. It was something like you have to do. The only way that like these moves can combo is by doing Kara canceling. If you don't know what a Kara cancel is, it's where like there's moves, there's like attacks that'll like move your character forward, for instance, and oftentimes a lot of normals can just be canceled as soon as they start up, but these attacks, like, they'll move you on like the first frame that they start up. So what you can do is you can do that move that like moves you forward a little bit, and then cancel it immediately into another move, like usually a special, and you'll basically like it's like a way of giving that special move extra range. So this shows up in like Kara throws, for instance. This is a big thing in like Street Fighter 3, where you can basically extend your character's grab range by Kara canceling it. So like if you got a little move like that, I forget. I think Q has like one of the best Kara throws. I think like it's like back or forward medium punch, something like that. He moves forward quite a distance, and you can just do that, instantly grab, and you get like a huge boost to the range. That's what a Kara cancel is. So Sagat has a couple of these, and I remember he had this one trial that required you to do them. They didn't say you had to do it. It wasn't like in the instructions for the trial. You just had to know. You had to do a Kara cancel to get like a certain attack to connect. So I did the smart thing, and I just pushed the training dummy to the corner, and I'm like, okay, this will be much easier, so I can do the combo way easier. But then I run into a little roadblock, a little problem that I don't understand. So the combo ends with doing a DP into super, and Sagat's super is like double quarter circle forward, like punch or kick. It's one of those, doesn't matter, but it's double quarter circle forward motion, and the DP is like a regular like DP forward motion as well. So easy. This should be easy, right? You just do like a DP and then another quarter circle plus the button for the super, and then you get an instant like DP into super motion. It's like a baby's first input trick with specials into super canceling. It's actually quite easy. Like I could go out and I could bang one out instantly, because the DP has forward, down, and then you can do you're basically just doing like tapping forward and then a quarter circle forward. And so because you have the quarter circle forward from that, you do another quarter circle forward and then the button for the super, and the game goes, oh, even though you're already doing this other attack from the DP, we'll just cancel it into the super just cuz. Like it's kind of specifically programmed into there that the input reading is like lenient enough that it'll let you do that. So actually quite easy. Which is why it was weird when I was going to do this combo and I was being a little cheat and putting the training dummy in the corner, and that was the only part that wouldn't work. It was the only part that wouldn't work. And I would do it, I would do the DP, and I could not get the super to come out. And I was like tearing my hair out trying to understand what was going on. I'm like I would push, I would like reset it and we'd be mid-screen. And then I would be able to, I'm like, okay, let me just make sure that I'm not like freaking out, right? So I go up, I just instantly do DP into super. Easiest thing in my life. Easy street. Then I do it in the corner. It still works. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I try the combo again. Doesn't work. And it's so consistent that it can't be me. It can't be me. Like, this is so easy. This should be so easy. This literally cannot be me fucking up. So what is it? What I figured out, and I might have found like a forum post about this. That specific trial for Sagat is programmed. It's programmed so that you cannot, excuse me, do. You do. It's like you do not get this. Jesus. It basically has cheat prevention. It's programmed so that you cannot. It's either you can't do the DP into super cancel if you're in the corner, or you can't do it if you didn't do Kara cancel. I don't know which one it is, but it's basically programmed so that you gotta do the Kara cancel, or it's not gonna work. It won't let you. It will not let you do it. So I think I just skipped that one, because fuck that. What the... What? And they don't tell you about this. They don't tell you about this. Ryu has this one trial that is like only possible if you do like a micro walk. What? They don't even tell. At least like when you play like Melty Blood or something like that, or Under Night, any of like the French bread games with combo trials, at least they tell you like you're supposed to whiff this move. Yeah, it's really weird that you're supposed to whiff this to make the combo work, but that's how it works. At least they'll tell you that, or they'll put like little like, oh, this one is delayed. You delay this a little bit. At least they'll tell you these little things. Capcom's like, nah, you gotta figure that out. Figure it out, son. So you have that, right? That like completely, and you don't even do that. Whenever I see Sagat's playing, they just do basic ass combos. They just do like normal DP. And then they just spam fireballs. They don't even do that shit. What? What? So you have that compared to Seth's actually fairly easy, useful combo trials that you actually see Seth players doing in real matches. And you're like, where's the consistency? What is the purpose of these trials? Is this to train me? It's like when you go through school and you're like, what's the purpose of schooling? Is it to prepare me for the workforce, or is it to like make me smart, to like give me, because you believe in like the virtue of being educated? Like, what is these? Because like they're clashing, they're pretty much clashing right now. So, I'm trying to think of other combo trial, like, basically, like, oh yeah, the KOF 13 trials, infamous for this, infamous. KOF 13, like, most KOF combos are actually pretty normal, like, well, I say normal, fairly simple. It is a pretty simple, like, normal, command normal, special move, super. It gets a little more complicated once you, like, oh, you can cancel you can do, like, max mode cancels, you can do, like, there's like a structure to it, but the general like 50 move long combos that are in the, like the 13 trials, yeah, that's just like purely like, hey, isn't this neat? It's basically combo art, right? It's just combo art. So I don't know what the launch trials were like for Xrd like Sign, but there's like it seems like to be a concerted effort by Arxis to update the trials because apparently they're different. So what they actually did was with the different versions of the game, the revisions of the game, they would also update the characters' combo trials, either to like reflect, changes that were made to the character, or like developments in strategy, essentially. So that's appreciated, right? And again, I'm looking at like stuff that like maybe Slayer players are doing in tournament. And I'm like, okay, they're doing stuff that's a little more complex. But hey, this is actually like there's like some decent, like at least fundamental ideas in here. Like, oh yeah, like I see, like watching like Daymendo, who's like a top NA Slayer player. And he's doing like at least bits of like he's doing combos that are actually in the trials, not like 1-to-1, but like things in them. For like, doing a dust into like a dust chase into to fuck like 5H K pile bunker. Like, that's like a real combo that and you can learn that in the trial. So they wanted it to be an actual resource for like, okay, you can actually do this stuff in a game, right? In a real game of Xrd. I'm pretty sure some of them are excessive, but for the most part they're not bad. I like the things that they did with some of the combo things that they did with Slayer. I miss having 2H stagger. I guess 5H staggers now. But I miss having 2H, just a big-ass hitbox you could put out on the ground that would stagger people. Now it just launches, and it's like impossible to combo off of unless you Roman cancel. But hey, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of, like... I get what they were kind of going for. Like, Pile Bunker's a cool move on Slayer. But I'm not like a fan of how you can just like stuff like 100 pile bunkers into Slayer combos. I don't know. I prefer it when it's more of a... It has a little more punch, so to speak, in like the XX series where or at least in Plus R where it's like, yeah, you see it. You won't be using it. You might see like 2 of them at most in a combo in Plus R. In Xrd, it's like pile bunker, Roman cancel, pile bunker, 5H pile bunker. Just so many, and it starts to like lose some of that oomph, But otherwise, God, this character's so much easier to play, just in general. I guess I went on that big tear about combo. Do I want to finish anything? I was actually curious, like, what was the first combo trial? Like, what was the first game to do that? Because I was thinking, like, those didn't exist until, it's like, at least, like, 2009? Like, Blaze Blue? I remember, like, Blaze Blue, I'm pretty sure had combo trials in the first game. I think the first fighting game to have combo trials... I'm not kidding, was Street Fighter EX. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like... I can't find, like... Interestingly, I can't actually find... oh, yeah, no, wait, someone says on r/fighters... Street Fighter EX plus Alpha. First game to have combo trials. And, I can't say whether or not the trials in those games are useful or not. Not many people play those games seriously. A lot of people forget the EX games even exist. Sort of like the weird... I don't know want to say black sheep, just like, oh yeah, those games of the series. It's where Trials come from, interestingly enough. I guess they caught on from there, or other devs thought that was a good idea. I have no idea. No clue. Yeah, it's weird. And in a weird way, the inconsistency with how different games and different developers handle Trials ends up being like more confusing for players, like newer players, I feel like, because they have no idea, like, you're getting all this mixed information of like, no, so that game you played, yeah, those Trials were actually good. The other game, no, they were just like nonsense. It's just dumb shit. Go look up Dustloop. Go look up Dustloop and find some real combos. Yeah, so that was my... Ooh, I guess a little side note about Xrd. Finally, Xrd, the very first, and when I mean the first, I mean the very first model swap mod came out for Guilty Gear Xrd the other day. I am not kidding. You're like, huh? What do you mean the very first? Guilty Gear Xrd, because there's a bunch of mods for Strive, right? There's a stupid amount of mods. See if I can find the thread. Guilty Gear Xrd model swap mod. Guilty Gear Xrd was programmed, sorry, it was built on Unreal Engine 3. It's that old. Remember, this game was, I think they got the license back around like 2011 from Sega or Axis. Who had the Gear license? I think it was Sega. They got the license back in like 2011 or something. And so the game probably started development around that time. And so in like 2011, you know, what was available? When did Unreal 4 come out? Unreal Engine 4. Unreal 4 came out in... You don't give me Unreal, the video game. Can you not? Unreal Engine 4 release date. God damn, Google. No, not May 22nd, 1998. Unreal Engine 4. Oh my god. Google's the worst. They just give me the fucking Unreal Engine 4. Anything? 2014. March 19th, 2014. Epic Games released Unreal Engine 4 through a new licensing model. Yeah, okay, so actually this is actually, you get this just from the Wikipedia page. For a monthly subscription of $19 US, developers were given access to the full version of the engine, including the C++ source code. So that's important because that was new to Unreal 4. Unreal Engine 3 did not do that. You kind of had to be like a real-ass developer and had to get the license for it. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you can just buy it. Like, you gotta license that shit out. Also, the only like version that you can get was like a version that didn't support like C++. So actually like modding anything, basically modding Unreal Engine 3 games is kind of a pain in the ass. And not many people even have the capability to do it. So somehow there was a mod for, let's see if I could find it, Xrd, that just came out. So try and search on Twitter. Guilty Gear Xrd mod. mod, because there's like some color swap mods. But yeah, there's also, I don't know how like all these are, the model swapping mods I think are like, it's like so, that was previously like not, either it was just way too annoying. Why can't I find this? That's interesting. Anyway, yeah, so there's now model swap mods that can happen. Not sure how it works. So, that's neat. I hope more come out. Because okay, let me tell you why I hope more mods come out for Xrd. It's because they took my goddamn color. They took my Slayer color. Okay, so in Plus R, the Slayer color that I always use is it's EX Dust. Okay, if you're curious, it's EX Dust. You can go look it up. It's the white suit with the black undershirt and like the mint green tie and the trim. It's a great color. It's a sick ass color. That color is in Rev 2. It is in the game. It does exist. You can see it. However, you cannot normally play as it. You're like, what? What do you mean? So they did this weird thing in Rev, well, I guess just in the Xrd series, or maybe even in their other games, and I'm just not as familiar, where they would basically take one color from a previous version that was kind of popular, or that they liked, or I don't know what the logic was behind it, and in the next version, they would make that color the mirror match color. So if both players were using the same character and picked the same color, the other one would show up as the exclusive, player 2 would show up as the exclusive mirror match color. And that was what they picked my color to be. I think it was in like maybe Revelator or Sign or something like that, but they plucked that out and they made it only usable for the second player when both characters are Slayer and both of them pick the same color. It's the only time you can see it. Why? Why would you do this? This seems like such a, like, why would you take away options? Because there's some cool colors. There's some cool colors that they took away. Like, I think Elfelt's like 7th color or something like that. It's like a cool like red and black dress that she's got on. And of course my color. I saw some, I was looking this up because I've seen this color in game, but I can't, like in videos, but I can't find it. Like, where is it? And yeah, it turns out they put it in mirror match jail. They put it in mirror match jail. I can't pick it anymore. Unless I want to play Rev, I guess. If it's in that one. I didn't check. But like, why would I play Rev? Well, I gotta play Rev 2, the better version of the game. So that peeved me off. And it's annoying because I feel like they could have just come up with like, I feel like there's like such a better solution. Like, just take one color, like the character's second color or whatever, and just have that be the default mirror match color. And then if both players picked that one, then just have it be the default color. Just have default, like color 1, you know? Have that be the mirror match color. And then just let everyone use every color. Why did you do it in this weird way? Why? Why? So I was looking up mods to see if there was like a way to make all the mirror match colors normally selectable. I think there's technically one, but it only works online. And and I would just like it to just be regularly selectable. So if Xrd starts getting more mods and starts getting some more modding attention, that's one I'd like. I'd like for you to do that one. Anyway. Yeah, sorry, I just that annoyed me. Anyway. Second topic, I guess, really. Google is shutting down Stadia. Now, it might surprise you to learn that this is not a headline from a year ago. It's actually a headline from a couple days ago. September 29th, 2022, via The Verge. It's happening. It's actually happening now. I was just as surprised as you were, honestly. Like, wait, it's not. It's like learning that like Jimmy Carter's still alive. You're like, what? He's still alive? What? Yeah, no, he's still alive. What the fuck? What the fuck? I thought he died. Huh? It's like a Mandela effect. I thought Google Stadia died a year and a half ago, at least. No, it's still been trucking. I have no idea. It's basically been dead or in maintenance mode for the better part of its existence. And finally, officially, it's getting the axe. And it's really funny because okay, let's run through the details from this article. The service will remain live for players until January 18th, 2023. Doomsday. Google will be refunding all Stadia hardware purchased through the Google Store, as well as all the games and add-on content purchased from the Stadia Store. So just everyone's getting a refund. Which actually poses an unfortunate question of, wait, hang on. So the service is shutting down. This was like a cloud service, right? There's no physical games. There's no nothing. So all of this, the controller, the box, if you had the box, which I thought was like not the point of it, but whatever. Does all that just become like e-waste? That's just garbage. It becomes literally unusable. Huh? Damn, what an excellent like you could actually like frame it. You could taxidermize your Stadia controller and then like put it up on display for like, yeah, like a dodo bird. You're not getting any more of these. So, Phil Harrison put out a blog post. A few years ago, we also launched a consumer gaming service, Stadia, which leads me to believe that this blog post was not about Stadia. There was just like a side note, pretty much. And while Stadia's approach to streaming games for consumers was built on a strong technology foundation, it hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected. So we've made the difficult decision to begin winding down our Stadia streaming service. Holy shit. So there's a lot to unpack here. Strong technology foundation. Now, I understand that these are just words, right? These are just words that he's saying because they sound good. Because you could just as easily pull up the video of that guy from the Washington Times or wherever, using the Stadia on like metropolitan top tier internet, and like he's hitting the spacebar to jump in Assassin's Creed, and like a second later the character jumps, and then he hits it again, and like half a second later the character jumps, so it's not even like a consistent level of latency. A strong technology foundation. Interesting. It hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected. Damn. So second part. Difficult decision. This was a difficult decision to shut down Stadia. Dude, if you had any business sense at all, this should have been the easiest. You should have shut this down before it even. Oh my god, before this even got out the door. The whole Stadia thing is such a nightmare. It was like, what an incredible failure. Like, a really incredible failure. Like, it didn't even serve the purpose that it was supposed to. Like, wasn't the idea that, like, oh, it's for people who don't have a lot of money to spend on games, but also you need, like, really good internet to be even mildly, like, even be kind of playable. And also you have to pay a subscription, which I'm sure, like, depending on how much you play games, probably, like, eclipses the amount of money you'd be spending on games. Wasn't, like, Destiny 2 on there? Isn't it, like, a free game? If you got the Stadia and like, bought Destiny 2... Or got Destiny 2... Wait, didn't you even have to buy the games themselves? Yeah, you had to buy the games separately in addition. And into, like, the subscription, I think? And then, like, you could only download, you could only actually purchase them through, like, a Google app on your phone. It didn't even have, like, a store interface for, like, your TV or your computer. Why did you think that this was a good idea? Difficult decision. This was a difficult decision for you? Holy crap. Harrison says Google sees opportunities to apply Stadia's technology to other parts of Google, like YouTube, Google Play, and its AR efforts. I have no idea what parts that were, like, not already just in those, like, live streaming. I don't know. I have no idea. This is just, I feel like this is just him covering, like, oh no, we can salvage it. Don't worry, investors. It was just a little experiment. And it's funny because this Stadia should never have been a console. It should never have even tried. Google's getting into the console space. That's like the dumbest thing you can do. Anyone trying to get into the console space now is like a crazy person. Like, okay, getting into the phone market, sure. Okay, that seems like a logical... Like, they already make Chromebooks and they made tablets and the phone. Okay, that, like, makes sense. You've got your own OS. Okay. That at least makes sense to me. But, like, a console? A video game console? That's so wildly, like, out... Like, I guess Sony did it in the 90s. It's so, like... When the industry was going through, like, a huge shift because Sega was fucking dying, Nintendo had a fallout with Philips, and their console was, like, going to be on ice. There was, like, this whole period of, like, 5 or something years in the console industry in the 90s where, like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? Oh, there's an opportunity. Sony sweeps in with the first, like, big 3D console. I know that the 32X existed, technically, but like it was 32X. They come in with like Metal Gear Solid. You know? Yeah, it's a pretty different time from like 2020. A pretty different time from like, oh yeah, we're like pretty entrenched. Like we understand what the industry is, like what the market is. Getting in here, even back in 2013 when the Ouya came out, I was 11 in 2013, and even I knew that shit was gonna fail. I was like, no one's gonna buy that. I don't know anyone who would buy an Ouya, and guess what? No one did because it had nothing to offer. It was just like it was like a vague pitch. It was like a pitch. Stadia should have been like an infrastructure. Stadia should have been like a service that Google offered, like Amazon Web Services, right? Amazon could have made like their own browser. Excuse me. They could have made their own browser. They could have made their own search engine. But guess what? They didn't. They just made Amazon Web Services. Now they host like a percentage of the internet. Much, much better idea to like just create the platform. You're like a platform company, not like a console. I guess a console is a platform, but you know what I mean, right? Like you don't make the content. You make the platform for the content. Not like hard. I guess they sort of. It's just a bad idea. That's what I'm trying to say. Like the amount of effort. So like, okay, if you're gonna like launch a phone, I feel like the amount of stuff you need is way less than a console, right? So if you're gonna like launch a new phone, what do you need? Okay, you need features. You need like a certain speed of your processor. You need a certain level of sound. You need a certain most of the time you need like a certain storage capacity. You need a functional operating system. That's why most people just use Android, made by Google. Stadia should have just been like the Android for cloud streaming. You're just like streaming games, someone else comes and picks it up. What was I talking about? Right, like you got to put in some legwork, right? But compared to like launching a console, it's like, so first of all, you need to make the console work. You need to do all that stuff on the hardware end, basically, or the software end, or whatever, if it's a streaming service. Then you have to like they have to design a controller, and they pretty much just They just made like a worse Xbox controller. They just took the Xbox design and then, like, from what I hear, just made like a much cheaper, worse feeling version. Like, so you're already getting into like the tactile. There's a whole like Sony and Xbox and Nintendo have all like perfected the art of like a good feeling controller. They have like patents for this shit. They have designers. They've had people who've been doing this stuff for forever. They have supply chains because they know that the player is going to be using this and they need to have a decent experience in their hands. Google makes bad decisions with YouTube. They don't know how to make a controller. So you're already dipping into like two spaces that you really don't know how like what you're doing. The third, you gotta get games for it. You need games for the thing. So like, oh, are you gonna get first-party developers? You're gonna like sign on a studio to make stuff for you, but like, why would they make things for you and not other? Like, why would they make you an exclusive for you when you're like, they don't even know what your install base is gonna look like? So oh, well, we'll get like third-party developers, but like their games are already on other consoles. And also, if it's like a multiplayer game, there's no crossplay, so you have to own a Stadia, and it's like they're trying to squeeze. They're trying to like squeeze. They're like a big elephant trying to squeeze into like a clown car. That's what they are, trying to get into the console market. it's just so many bad decisions. Let's get back to the article. The company also plans to make it available to our industry partners. Again, they just should have made the platform, which aligns with where we see the future of gaming headed, he wrote. Google detailed some of the finer points of the shutdown in an FAQ. Refunds will automatically be made through the Google and Stadia stores, and you won't have to return any hardware. I hope not. Jesus. Imagine having to mail your controller back. Like, what the... Yeah, so don't do that. Stadia Pro subscriptions will not be eligible for a refund, but you will not be charged during the shutdown period and can access games you might have redeemed as a Pro user until everything is wound down. Google has closed the Stadia store, so you can't buy games or in-game transactions. Okay, at least they did that. The writing on the wall for Stadia... The writing has been on the wall for Stadia for a while now. Most recently, when Logitech announced its new cloud gaming handheld last week? I didn't even know about this. The fuck is this? Logitech... cloud gaming handheld? The G Cloud? The fuck is this? Android-based handheld streaming. Interesting. Kind of reminds me of the NVIDIA Shield. But, anyway. Well, I didn't even hear about that. Yada yada. But Stadia, let's see. Oh, a new cloud gaming handheld. Stadia was one of the few cloud gaming services not mentioned. Oh, they're not doing... Thank God. Okay, so that handheld is not a service unto itself. It can access multiple services? Okay, interesting. But not Stadia. Stadia has been facing rumors of its demise practically from the start. Google has a habit of killing projects only a few years after they launch, and Stadia, a cloud gaming service from a company with few ties in the gaming industry, seems like a prime candidate for an early demise. And there's a very funny comment under this article about, like, they've launched so many... Stop pretending like Google just kills everything. They've got so many products that have worked out. Let me pull up the... Hang on. Google Graveyard. Yeah, killed by Google.com. Is Stadia on here anymore? Yep, there it is. Let's see. Oh, that's funny. They have... This page is actually... There's 274 items here. They actually have a different icons for... There's a grave, if it's there, if it's already dead. And there's a guillotine if it's set to be killed. What the fuck is YouTube Go? 2017 to 2022? Killed about 2 months ago. YouTube Go was an app aimed at making YouTube easier to access on mobile devices in emerging markets through special features like downloading video on Wi-Fi for viewing later. I've literally never heard of this. What is YouTube Go? A lightweight Android app optimized for lower-end hardware? What? Why not just have, like, a mode that makes... What the fuck? Google My Business app. Google Chrome apps. Core Mode Jobs. An app that allowed users in India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh to help them find jobs. Android Auto for phone screens. Google Assistant Snapshot. Cameos on Google. Android Things. Angular JS. JavaScript. All the things I mentioned were in 2022, like in the last year. Except for Angular JS. JavaScript open source. Okay, some code thing. On the chopping block, Google Hangouts. Because they're replacing Google Hangouts with a different Google Hangouts. Google On Hub. I don't even know what that is. YouTube originals? That's so funny. Stadia. Google Currents. What? From 2019, going poof in 6 months, Google Currents was a service that provided social media features similar to Google Plus for Google Workspace customers. Conversational Actions. Conversational Actions extended the functionality of Google Assistant by allowing third-party developers to create custom experiences or conversations for users of Google Assistant. And most recently, Google Cloud IoT Core, or furthest in the future, I should say, Google Cloud IoT Core was a managed service designed to let customers securely connect, manage, and ingest data from globally dispersed devices. There's so many things. There's so many things. Like, the kill list is so much longer than the hit list. Wait. It's so interesting to like go back and read the first one. Google Desk Bar, 2003 to 2006. A small inset window on the Windows toolbar allowed users to perform searches without leaving the desktop. Huh. There's Google toolbar for Firefox. That's funny. They killed that in 2009. They've killed so many products over the years. Yeah. Anyway. Last year, rumors abounded it would shut down after the number of games released on the platform slowed and the company shuttered its in-house game development studios. They had those? Oh yeah, they never made any. I don't think they made any games for the Stadia. When those rumors popped up again this year, Google insisted that Stadia was not shutting down. Rest assured, we're always working, bringing more great games to the platform in Stadia Pro. Which was true until today. Microsoft, which is also heavily invested in cloud gaming, decline to comment. Nvidia, which makes the GeForce Now cloud gaming service, and AT&T, which used the Stadia tech to power a couple game trials, didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. Yeah, so... This is so funny. And you know what's funnier? Is the follow-up story. Coming to us from Engadget, courtesy of Chris Holt. Google reportedly canceled a Stadia exclusive follow-up to Death Stranding. To Death Stranding. I'm going to say that again. A Stadia exclusive follow-up to Death Stranding. So, according to 9 to 5 Google, at one point, Hideo Kojima was working on a Stadia-only follow-up to Death Stranding, which debuted on PlayStation. Death Stranding has some asynchronous multiplayer elements. Other players might be able to use ladders, roads, and other items that you place in the world, for instance. However, the planned follow-up was said to be a fully single-player game, which might have been the reason why Google canceled the project. According to the report, Google canned the game, which was described as an episodic horror title, after seeing the first mock-ups in 2020. Dude, this game didn't get canceled. It got aborted. They saw the first, concept art. They fucking... They busted out the coat hangers. Holy shit. Stadia Vice President and General Manager Phil Harrison is said to have made the final decision to kill the project. For what it's worth, in a May 2020 interview, Kojima claimed one of his projects had recently been canceled. And this is the funniest thing. Here's the funniest part. Google reportedly abandoned the project in the belief that there wasn't a market for single-player games anymore. Of note, CD Projekt Red just announced that Cyberpunk 2077, which is on the Stadia, by the way, has now sold 20 million copies. Less than 2 years after its... They're very generous in this article. They call it an eventful debut. 20 million copies. Million copies of a fucked up game. By mid-2021, Death Stranding itself had sold more than 5 million copies. So, like, oh my god. The lack of big exclusives is far from the only issue that led to Stadia's downfall. A questionable business model and a seemingly rushed rollout didn't help, nor did Google's reputation for ruthlessly killing off its own products. Yeah, never took off. The company was shut down the platform. Let's see. The news of Stadia's demise blindsided developers, from giants like Destiny 2 studio Bungie to indie studios whose titles were supposed to hit the now-closed Stadia store in the coming weeks. Oh, man. So they made these agreements, and then they just say, hey, yeah, no, that's not happening. The store is getting locked down. As Axios notes, it isn't clear whether Google has a broad plan to reimburse studios for costs they expected to recoup after launching their games on Stadia. There are concerns about what Stadia's closure means for game preservation, too. While Google didn't secure AAA exclusives, Stadia has some indie games that aren't available elsewhere. Yeah, that was like the saddest part. Like seeing all these indie games and you're like, fuck, please go to Steam. Just make it to Steam. Just make it to Steam and you'll be alright. Meanwhile, some are calling on Google to unlock the Stadia controller's Bluetooth functions. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. The argument is that if people can more easily use the controller on other platforms, it's less likely that the gamepad will become e-waste. The controller connects directly to Wi-Fi for Stadia games in order to minimize lag. Which is so funny. It connects to Wi-Fi. Who's playing on Wi-Fi? You can also hook it up to devices with a USB-C. As for Kojima, he has a Death Stranding sequel in the works, according to the game's star Norman Reedus. Yeah. Apparently something, the Death Stranding sequel is going to have some kind of cloud technology with Microsoft. I don't know what that's about. Yeah, so... Dude, could you imagine? Could you imagine the sequel to Death Stranding being a Stadia exclusive? Like, run that through your head for a second. That, like... It would be like Metal Gear Solid 4 all over again. Like, Kojima already has one game landlocked to a console. Imagine it's not just to like you can't even emulate Stadia anymore. Imagine that there's a whole Kojima game that's just gone. Oh no, wait, PT. Why does this keep happening to him? Why does Kojima keep making games that get lost to time and console exclusivity? I'm so glad that didn't happen. And I feel bad for all the indie devs. I really do. That has to... Oh my god. Yeah, hopefully they can get their games onto other platforms or sign with some kind of a publisher to help them get... If they don't have the money, to help them get on Steam or something like that. At least. Just somewhere that you can play it, right? And the most poetic thing, you're like, oh yeah, of course it would be canceled because it was the fucking Stadia. It was the Google effing Stadia. No, That wasn't why it was canceled. It was canceled because Google didn't think there was a market for single player games anymore in like 2020. Just, one of the best things about Elden Ring, I didn't play Elden Ring. I haven't played it yet. Maybe I will in the future. I haven't played it, but one of the best things about it for like the environment of gaming is that it showed all of these fucking people who know nothing about video games how stupid they are. Just how all these idiot like C-suites and investors that they look at like, well, what makes the most money? It's so funny because like it's strange, right? Because you look at like the metric for success for people like this is so skewed. It's this weird thing where it's like a game or a market or something isn't successful unless it's literally the most successful. I think I've said it before, but like video games are like the most hyper capitalist industry next to like something like, I don't know, gambling or like cigarettes or something like that. Just the most profit driven, like insane people ever, where if it doesn't make we can't just make a lot of money. We can't just make an ungodly amount of money. We have to make all of the money. All of your money. We need it all. And if we can't have it, then it's not even worth trying. It's just, because it's so baffling to like a regular human being with like a soul. I'm lost for words to think like the reason why they didn't think that there was any market for single player games makes no fucking sense. It's not based on any kind of actual like, oh, well, what are people playing, it's not like one of the most hyped games at the time of like the last 7 years was Cyberpunk 2077, a game which everyone knew was going to be purely single player. That was like guaranteed to be a million seller on release with just the sheer force of the hype it was generating. No way, you know where this impression comes from. You know where this idea came from. It's because they looked at the games that make the most money and they realized that they were all like perpetually online multiplayer games that just like squeeze every last cent out of their customers with microtransactions and subscription fees and add-ons and DLC and all these other things. That was what it was. It was everything else, even something as blindingly popular as Cyberpunk 2077, something so earth-shakingly hyped up, completely under the radar, because it wasn't the biggest thing ever, or because it wasn't making all the money right now for me. And I'm so glad that Elden Ring came out and it showed how fucking stupid these people are. And I will admit that, the message probably didn't go through to them. Because again, Elden Ring, I'm sure it's made a stupid amount of money, but again, it hasn't made all the money in the world, right? Even though it's all anyone could talk about for like a month, 2 months after it released. The only thing anyone could talk about who had played it, it was just in this blind spot of not being, oh my god, the monetization. Oh, it's so genius. It's so brilliant. Another reminder of why I don't play AAA games for the most part. So funny. What a funny company. What a stupid decision. And I'm I don't think anyone's losing their jobs over this, so I can actually be a little amused that this happened, right? If people were like losing jobs, if like a company went under, I'd be like, it's kind of a shame. You know, I could at least feel empathy for the people who were lost their jobs and all that. But this is Google, so it's just funny. You just look like a fucking dope. Of course, there is so one of the reasons that Google kills so many projects is that I believe you actually get a bonus at Google if you successfully get an idea into production. The idea doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be successful. You just have to make a project start. And they'll just spit some fucking thing out. Like, here it is. It's not finished. But hey, why not? We don't care. They'll just dump it out into one of their services. They won't even advertise it. There'll be no marketing campaign. Google doesn't it's like they don't even look at their services, their products as products. They look at them as like growths. Like another mushroom on their hill. Yeah, a bird can come by and eat it at any time. I don't know. Yeah, at least it grew. I'm going to talk about the last story that I was interested in. Bit of a follow-up to that Nintendo is a bad place to work at story, or series of stories. Exclusive. This is coming to us from Axios, courtesy of Stephen Totillo. Exclusive. Fired Nintendo worker speaks out alleging union busting. So essentially what happened here is there was an employee named Mackenzie Clifton. Ooh, my neck. Mackenzie Clifton, who, were they a tester? Were they licensed by Aston Carter, that contracting firm? Yes, so they were a QA tester, I believe, working under the contracting firm Aston Carter. Or some kind of, like, they were a contract worker, essentially. I don't think QA. There was a Q&A with the Nintendo of America president, Doug Bowser, where Clifton asked this question. Apparently this is verbatim. What does Nintendo of America think about the unionization trend in QA in the games industry as of late? So I'll just repeat it. What does Nintendo of America think about the unionization trend in QA in the games industry as of late? Nothing confrontational about this. Just this thing's happening. What do you guys think about it? I guess maybe you could say there was a loaded element to it because this is a QA tester, right? But this question is pretty fair. And it's just, what do you think of it? Not even, are you gonna let us do that? Or anything like that? Or would you be open to that? Not even suggesting anything, just what are your thoughts on this? Clifton's question wasn't addressed in the meeting. But later that day, Clifton says, a supervisor from Aston Carter called them, saying it was a downer question. Which, what the fuck? You can't ask a downer question? It's a QA session. What? And advising them to direct such inquiries to the contracting firm, not Nintendo. Clifton was, quote, baffled and kind of angry. Less than a month later, Clifton was fired. Nintendo has denied that unions had anything to do with Clifton's dismissal, instead saying the tester was let go for publicly disclosing quote-unquote confidential information. Clifton tells Axios that they had pressed supervisors for proof of a violation and were shown a tweet they posted on February 16th, which stated, In today's build, someone somewhere must have deleted every other texture in the game because everything is now red, just like pure red. It's very silly. So this is just a tweet about how they were working on something and someone deleted every other texture and everything was red. Clifton says that is a misdirection, noting the tweet is vague. It does not clearly identify what they were working on, which, yeah, I would never... This is just a funny little thing. This barely says anything. This is like... It's almost like my computer crashed at work today, or something like that. Nintendo and Aston Carter did not reply to requests for comment about Clifton's account. The NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, declined to comment on the status of the complaint. So this, of course, folds into the overall kind of narrative that's building about Nintendo of America not treating their contract workers very well, quote-unquote second-class citizens. So after Clifton's NLRB complaint, dozens spoke out on social media and in the press, saying Nintendo consigns hundreds of crucial workers in its game testing... Hundreds of crucial workers in its game testing, customer service, and even game writing teams to precarious and stressful temporary deals. Even some top performers say conversions to full-time status are rare. Amid those remarks have been accusations of workplace misconduct, which Nintendo has internally told its workers to take seriously, but neither Nintendo nor its contracting firms have spoken publicly about the company's widespread use of contractors. So, obviously, this is a bit of a shady situation. You get reprimanded for asking about unions, and then a month later you get fired for a very iffy reason, bordering on potentially like wrongful termination. Because again, I don't know how much this applies to other countries, but at least in the U.S., right? At least in the U.S., it is illegal to fire someone for asking. Every worker has a right to unionize, basically. Now, of course, there are under-the-table ways, like that companies like Amazon, for instance, will disincentivize that or make that extremely difficult or make it really, just difficult. So, quote-unquote, union busting. But every company... Legally, you cannot tell you have if your workers actually unionize. You have to let them. You can make it a long process, but you have to go through with it. Every worker has the right to it, and you definitely cannot fire someone for wanting to unionize. Definitely cannot. That's super illegal. Let's see. Okay, so working on Smash Brothers was special, Clifton said. So they were a tester on Smash. Smash was a very special series to them. And at Nintendo, they'd become frustrated with their contract's forced breaks and the lack of agency as a temporary employee. Clifton hoped thousands of hours of work might get them and their fellow testers added to Smash Brothers Ultimate's credits. When they heard in 2021 that an effort to do so was refused somewhere up the chain, Clifton was, quote, utterly crushed. It drove me to suicidal ideation. Quote, if all of this work I had done for all of these years meant nothing to these people, that they couldn't even just modify a text document, why bother? They remember thinking. Citing a medical emergency, they told their bosses they needed to stop coming to the office. After they left, the game's credits were eventually updated with their name, and in January 2022, they began a new contract at Nintendo before their firing in February. Clifton's decision to file a complaint against Nintendo and Aston Carter was, quote, more to show the world and show my former coworkers that something like a union would not only be beneficial, but maybe even necessary in the coming years. As the investigation and talks for a possible settlement ensued, Clifton issued a condition. They wanted a letter of apology signed by Nintendo of America President Bowser. Anytime they just don't use his first name, I just imagine the lizard. Nintendo countered, Clifton said, with an offer to speak to HR, then offered a neutral letter of reference. Holy shit. The NLRB, which is still handling the complaint, told them a letter wasn't required as part of a settlement. So they just asked for it. Yeah, so this is I think stories like this are important, because, which is why I keep bringing them up. And again, I don't want to belabor the point any more than I already have, that like QA is a very crucial role, and QA is why a lot of games come out correctly or come out without a ridiculous amount of bugs. And they should be, I don't know, at least acknowledged. Like, again, like that's a symbolic thing, right? Like they said, if all of this work I'd done for all of these years meant nothing to these people, they couldn't even just modify like, it's just writing a name in a text document that's programmed to scroll up. You can't, you're not even worth the 5 seconds it takes, or even less, to just copy paste someone's name. Like, just the you know, I think it's interesting because it actually kind of folds into something that's it's been kind of a subject of conversation recently in the US, something called quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is actually not a term that originated from people who do it. It comes from management, who are trying to make it sound worse than it is. Basically, quiet quitting is the idea that you are not going to go above and beyond at your job. You are just going to do the bare minimum required because your company does not deserve... they don't deserve that out of you. That's basically it. So, like, it's an interesting phenomenon, because essentially it's almost like a response to a weird way that the job market has evolved over the years, where it used to be like, oh, you do what's on your job description, but then, oh, the guy who does 110%, he gets the promotion. So now I got to do 120%. And then the next guy after me has to do 130%. And it just starts getting like basically just power creep. And to the point where you're doing so much more than your job description that like 150%, 200% is just what is expected of you, even though it's not on the job description. And at some point, some people just go, that's enough. That's enough. You are, at this point, you're just exploiting me. I'm just be all fucking, ooh, can I get a cookie? Can I get a cookie, Mr. Boss, Mr. Manager? And it's fucking, there's no dignity in that shit. There's no dignity as a person in keeling over to a management that doesn't care about you. So fuck it, I'm just going to do the bare minimum that's asked of me. I'm going to hit my marks, and that's it. And if you don't like that, then up the requirements for the job, up the job description. I'm doing what I was asked to, which I think is perfectly respectable. But there's just this, I don't know, there's this sense. There's like a powerful, like a spiritual secession in like the corporate world, or just in the, I feel like, at least I can only really speak for the United States. I'd call it a spiritual secession, where it feels like people who are in control of things, who control like land and resources and companies and all these things that are so influential in so many people's lives and necessary, not even to speak about like the government, don't really care It's not even, well, it's not even a problem of caring. It's that being in that position at that like level of influence, it necessarily puts you so far away from the experience of like an average person that you become kind of unrelatable. Like, you ever felt that? Like you couldn't relate. Like the richest people in the world, they're like aliens. They're just kind of strange. And there's like this growing gap between regular people in the working force and the working class and the people who pay them. that it's almost like this faraway this faraway thing, and it becomes very alienating and isolating. It's like finding out that God is real, but he doesn't really care about you. And I think that it's poisonous. I think it's poisonous to, like, I don't even know, like a greater, like, to society. Like, that has to wear on you at some point. That has to wear on you that you're slaving away for people who don't really care about you, doesn't it? It's disenfranchising, and also possibly, like, one of the reasons why something like hustle culture is so big right now. You know, it's always kind of been a thing, like, you can be your own boss. Or, you know, I guess in the old days, you could, you know, start a small business and things like that, or a family business, something like that. But now I feel like it's more popular than ever. And I think that, you know, there's a number of reasons for that. One is it's very easy to market something like that now. It's very easy to sell people on stuff. There's a lot of suckers out there, and it's easier to get to them than ever. But also, I wonder if part of like that hustle culture, or the desire to, like, be your own boss, it kind of stems from this discontent you feel with working for someone who is like a million miles away, who doesn't care about you, who doesn't know you, doing work for people who don't respect you. And when I say for people, I mean like customers, like working some kind of low-wage job. People just treat you like you're an automaton. It's really interesting, right? I was thinking about this. Because, like, if someone, like, makes dinner for you, right? If someone, like, makes you a meal, who's in your family, right? You're like, wow, thank you so much. This is a great meal. That means a lot to me. But for some reason, or if you were to make a meal for someone in your family or your friends, that would mean you would expect that to, like, that's like a gesture of kindness, right? But for some reason, when you like order from a restaurant, you just have free reign to just treat people like shit, treat people like garbage. So many like people in low wage jobs who do services for people they're looking straight in the eye, just get treated like trash. It's like what you'd expect out of, like, when I yell at my computer because it's being fucky, right? It's like dehumanizing. As soon as you're paying someone to do something, they become an automaton. They're just a machine to fulfill a thing, and if they don't work, what the fuck? You know? And again, like, there's an element, of course, paying for something changes it, right? Paying for like, yeah, you earned that money, you're spending it on something, but, like, you can't be a little civil, you can't be a little patient. I've been on the phone with a lot of customer service representatives, and a lot of them, you know, if you just give them the time of day, they're very nice, they're very helpful, and they're really trying to do everything they can. Like when I had that stupid Target gift card thing, if you remember, from like a year ago, I spoke with like several, like 2 or 3 people who were really trying to like help me just like order a hard drive with a gift card. And when it didn't work, I remember this lady, she was so nice. She legitimately, she felt really bad. Like when I told, I don't think she knew it was a gift card until I mentioned, like, oh, is the problem with the order that I'm using a gift card or something? Like, does that change anything? And I remember her tone of voice exactly. She goes, oh, you're using a gift card? And it wasn't like that was a problem or anything. She just felt like, oh, you got something as a gift card as a, like a present, and you can't use it. Oh, that's all. Like, she felt so bad. And it really plucked my heartstrings. I think she was more disappointed than I was. I was like, it was whatever. I would rather that it have worked, but she was much more crestfallen than I was. Right? Yeah, back on track. I think like this incentive to be your own boss is because, like, well, at least you can treat yourself well, sort of, sort of. Like there's like an inherent lack of distrust. Sorry, an inherent lack of trust. I think I talked about this in another podcast. Like, you don't trust other people. You don't trust institutions to treat you well. You don't trust them to not exploit you. You don't trust them to not steal your fucking paycheck. Did you know that there was some like Pew study or something, I don't know, that if you the amount of like money that businesses lose per year to like theft is dwarfed. It's like half to a third of the size of the amount of money that is stolen from employees by their managers, by the actual businesses. Just, oh, gonna pay you $20 less. Oh, you hope you don't notice. Gonna take $10 out of there. Ooh, $10 here, $20 here. Count how much work you did. Bring that shit up to your employer. If they want to sue you, if they want to fire you, sue them for wrongful termination. You'll win, easy. Or just threaten to sue them. They probably don't want to go through with it. I have no idea if this is good advice. It's what I would want to do. Yeah. Like, you can't trust these people. It's almost like reflective of yeah, it's reflective of that. You can't trust the powers that be to not fuck you over. It's this like everyone's out for themselves thing. That's like it's so I'm gonna put on my Zoomer cap. Toxic. And I call it a spiritual secession because it really does feel like that. It feels like there's an area, there's like a whole group of people who run our lives who have just kind of left. They're just gone. They're somewhere. Not physically. Well, maybe physically. But like spiritually. They're too distant. They're in like another place. They're in like another realm. And it's very disenfranchising. Is there a solution to that? I don't know. Nurture the relationships in your immediate life. Tell your friends you love them. Tell your family you love them. Spend time with people. The only thing you can do is be a good person in your own life. Maybe. You could probably vote or something. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher. Like, if I was... That's the great thing, is that I don't have to propose solutions because I'm not a politician. I just have to raise... I just have to raise a concern. I don't have to come up with a solution because that's not my job. I'm gonna secede from the decision-making process. I'm gonna secede from the responsibility, if you will. Well, it's been quite a. We've come on quite a journey, haven't we? I think I'm gonna call it a day. Very excited to start the next month fresh. Start the spooky season fresh. Look forward to that. I'm gonna have some spooky, videos this month. And I'm planning another little surprise for Halloween. If you remember our surprise from last year. So look forward to that. I don't got anything else to say. Right? Yeah. I have a Patreon. Look at the main channel. Watch that video to give me the watch time on the Die Hard collection, complete compilation version, DX, whatever I called it. If you have a question, leave it down in the comments below, and I will definitely get to it next time. We haven't had a question in a while. But don't just... Please phrase... What the fuck do I say? Phrase in the form of a question, because I don't just want to read your thoughts out loud. Thank you for listening to me ramble so long about utter nonsense. That's all I gotta say. Goodbye.